Thank you so much for joining our session. Our panel today is all about careers in business and entrepreneurship. And so we have three great speakers that will talk a little bit about their educational journey, as well as their trajectory in their career as well. And so with us today, we have three panelists. And with us first is Jason Corkrum, who is the current marketing lead at Apple Sports. Joining us today is Valerie Rivas, who is the Vice President of Small Business Community Officer at Bank of America. Lastly, but not least, we also have Jovana Smith, who is an alumna from here, our program for Fulfillment Fund, as well as the owner of Bougie Boards in LA. And so before we really get started with our questions, I want to give you all some time to introduce yourselves, a little bit about your personal story, and a little bit about your current role as well. And so would anyone like to go first?
Sure, I'll kick things off.
Thank you.
Hi. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here. Excited to be here today. Jason Corkrum. I work at Apple Sports. So Apple, obviously, is the largest company in the world, makes the iPhone and other cool tech products. But in addition to that, we have Apple TV Plus, which is a streaming platform that I'm sure some of you know. And within Apple TV Plus, we have original content and stream live sports. And so 2 years ago, Apple got into the live streaming sports business with purchasing rights to Friday Night Baseball, and in the last year to MLS Season Pass. You may have seen Messi came over and is now playing Inter Miami, which is a big deal for us. So my role within Apple Sports is to lead marketing for Friday Night Baseball. And essentially what that means is I work on coordinating all of the Major League Baseball partner marketing, as well as a lot of the internal marketing that we do in order to tell fans about the upcoming games that we have, get them excited about it, and also to track and optimize all of those assets. I've been at Apple for about a year, but the duration of my career has been about 14 years in the sports and entertainment industry.
Thank you, Jason.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jovana, and I own my own business, Bougie Boards LA. Didn't start off that way. I just kind of fell into this business. So I got my bachelor's in liberal arts and then got my master's in career in college counseling. And so during that time, during the pandemic, actually, if you guys still remember that, I was going through a rough patch, and just making food art was something that just kind of was therapeutic for me. And so I just kind of started it as a hobby, and slowly but surely I started to get really serious about my business about 2 years ago. So I'm 2.5 years in working for myself. This year I've definitely seen growth in my business. Worked with a lot of big companies, if you're familiar with Lionsgate. Never thought from education to, the food industry, but here I am. So thanks for having me today.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing a little bit about yourself. I know we definitely have a lot of students who are interested in starting their own business and are really in the ways of how to start that process. And I'm sure there's a lot of information out there. And so hearing from you kind of like your journey and your struggles, I think they're really going to be excited for that as well. Valerie?
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Valerie Rivas. I'm Vice President for Small Business Community at Bank of America, one of the largest financial institutions and one of the leading financial institutions that we have here in our country. So I have been in the finance industry for the last 19 years. The way that I started is I actually started at a family business. So I started as a receptionist, and I saw people coming in, and I was like, okay, there's a lot of people that need home loans. At the time I was doing the firm that I was in, it was solely doing home loans. So if you want to buy a first-time home buyer, or if you want to refinance your home, those are the services that firm was providing. And that was back in 2004. And I remember that at the time, because a lot of people knew that I was in that industry, they would contact me. And so I would have to refer that business over to other people. And they'd give me, like maybe $100 as a referral fee. And I started seeing how much money they were making. And I said, wait a minute, these are people that I'm referring. I want to be able to make some money. At the time, I was going at Cal Poly Pomona right out of high school in 2004. I I went to Cal Poly Pomona here in California and straight to a university. And I said, you know what? I want to make money instead, instead of going to school. And at the time, I had the mentality that I didn't need school because I'm thinking I can make money, I can make more money. And why do I need to go to school if I could just start making money now, right? So what ended up happening is so I got laid off there and I had to go somewhere else. And there was a market crash back in 2008. I get goosebumps just thinking about it because it was a bad time. and after that, I kept getting hired in different financial institutions, different banks. I did different type of roles. So I went into wholesale lending for home loans. So it's a little bit more complex. And I was still making pretty good money, especially for being 18, 19, in my 20s. And I think it was after 2 years of being at Cal Poly Pomona, I ended up quitting, which was the worst mistake I could have ever made. So in 2008, when I started looking for other careers and things that I wanted to get into, I didn't have a degree. So it was really difficult for me to go into a different industry without having a degree. And so I pretty much had to start all over into like an entry-level position at the bank. And when that happened, I said, you know what, I need to go back to school. Obviously, school is important. And I went back to University at Phoenix. And at that point, I was, already married. I was pregnant. So not only was it more difficult, right, and working a full-time job, ended up going back to school. And as soon as I got back to school, I ended up getting promoted. And I ended up, doing supervisor. I ended up doing personal banking, which means when you come into the bank, they help you open those accounts. And I thought that I wanted to be a branch manager. And my branch manager put me to the test. And I said, this is what I want to do. And he said, absolutely not. There's more out there for you, especially with your education and your previous employment. So what I ended up doing is I ended up taking a challenge, and I was giving this role to help small businesses. And so small businesses would come in, or entrepreneurs that wanted to open up their business, and I would open up their business account. Then I was offered a different position, and they offered me to be able to actually do the business loans. So let's just say you have a business and then now you want to do a loan, and now you want, let's just say, buy a commercial property to have your office in, or if you want to do a line of credit or a credit card, like those type of products, it was a little bit more complex. So I was really scared, but I was up for the challenge. I had already graduated from University of Phoenix, and I ended up going into doing these loans, which they sent me on like a 3-month training over to St. Louis. And that was fun, but at the same time, it was a lot of learning. It was accounting, which I hated accounting, right? And that was all I was learning, was how to read tax returns. And that was things that it was all scary to me. And I'm like, how am I doing this? And this is something that I hated doing in college, right? So after that, so I did that for about 12 years. Just most recently, earlier this year, back in January, I love volunteering. So I love helping people. I did a lot of volunteer work, and they ended up recommending me for a position that was for small business community outreach, meaning that I would be helping people on how to open up their business, give them workshops and different tools, resources on how they can get funding to open up their small business, and the ideas to make sure that those ideas are good. So sometimes what happens is when you open up a business, for example, myself, I opened up a escrow company at the wrong time back in 2007. And I did not do a research. So you have to research of what type of business you're going into. You have to see what the industry trends are, meaning what are some risks associated with that type of industry that you're going into? And I didn't do that homework when I opened up my escrow company. Now, having all the knowledge that I have, helping small businesses for the last 13 years, I have been able to guide a lot of different entrepreneurs and small business pretty much get to the next level, guide them on what they need to do to get a business loan, educate them on how to build business credit, how to open up their business. And so that's what I am doing now. So I do that by partnering up with nonprofits or any organization that supports small businesses or entrepreneurs. And I get in front of their audience or constituents to be able to provide financial literacy tools and resources and access to capital options. So that's a little bit of my story. Hope you learned something there. Thank you.
Yeah, that's perfect. So I think you definitely bring a lot of experience that when you're in college, there's a lot of things could happen, right? And oftentimes there's a lot of different things that happen in life, situations that we have to overcome or work with to be able to get to that finish line of graduation. So thank you so much for sharing your story. To kind of know a little bit more about your history in college and your major, and I know Jovana and Jason, your majors don't match the current roles that you're in right now, right? And so if you can tell me a little bit about how you've been able to use your bachelor's to be able to transition those skills into the job that you have right now.
Yeah, I'll hop in here. So I was an undergraduate history major, College of Arts and Sciences at Boston University. I majored in that because I really enjoyed history, and I had a very impactful history teacher in high school that encouraged me to study more about it, but I had no desire to be a history teacher or to make that my career. But I didn't know what else I wanted to do. I knew that I enjoyed history and I liked reading and writing, and it was certainly an adequate major for learning strong research skills and learning strong writing skills to serve me well in business. But I would say that at no point did I know I had a direction that I wanted to go in, and I want to do this when I graduate college. So if there's people out there that feel like I don't know what I want to major in, I don't really know what I want to do after college, I think that's perfectly okay. You can be in a place where you can take different courses and even go into the workforce and explore what you like and what you enjoy and what suits you, and run with it, and go towards the things that you find most interesting and that excite you. For me, I got into sports because I had I did an internship in high schof that ended up connecting me to a job after college. So a bit of networking there. Someone that I knew gave me my first job out of college. And I still wasn't really sure that was my path, that I wanted to be in sports long term. I thought maybe I wanted to go to law school. Maybe I wanted to get an MBA. Didn't really know. But I worked in it for a number of years and liked it. And ultimately, though, after about 10 years at a company called AEG, which is a sports and entertainment company in downtown LA, I was a little bit unfulfilled in my sports entertainment career. And then the pandemic rolled around, and I used that as an opportunity to transition slightly. I went back to school and got my MBA, which I look back on as being a good decision and kind of a good use of that weird time during the pandemic when a lot of us kind of had some misgivings about, am I happy with where I'm at right now? And I decided I want to do something a little bit different. And I wanted to be in a more marketing heavy role. Previous to that, I was in more of an account management role within the sports entertainment world. And going back and getting my MBA opened up more doors for me and allowed me to kind of transition a little bit, still within the sports entertainment sphere, but now in a more marketing and analytics driven role, that the MBA kind of gave me the business chops to be able to speak more intelligently to and apply for roles that I probably would not have gotten looked at had I not gotten my MBA.
Thank you so much, Jason. Jovana, do you want to try?
I can say, so I think I mentioned that I got my bachelor's in liberal arts, and then I got my master's in college counseling. And I just say that I would recommend, even if you don't know what you want to do, even though I'm an entrepreneur, I'm still exploring. But I can really honestly say that going to school has taught me discipline. I feel like being an entrepreneur, you have to know communication. You have to communicate with a lot of clients. You have to learn marketing. You have to know how to get your business out there. You have to know, what is it, network. You have to network. I feel like going to college has created that structure. Even I have homework assignments. So today I'm actually working an event, and they wanted me to put together like a beautiful display of, like, make sure it's Hispanic influence, Asian influence, as well as like people from Muslim background, incorporating all those foods. I have to do research on those things. So I feel like just being an entrepreneur, there's a lot of homework. There's a lot of things that when you go to college, it really sets you up to like kind of get into this role. And so, even if you don't know exactly the path you're thinking of down the line, I think when you go to school, it really does help you with those tools no matter what. And the cool thing about what I do now, it's not connected at all. And I think just being an entrepreneur, you just have to have passion, especially in the beginning, because you don't really know if it's going to work out, if it's not going to work out. For me, it was confidence. In the beginning, I didn't really, I want to say believe in myself, but I just was scared. Like, I wanted to work somewhere. I wanted to be part of an institution, and me being the institution, being HR, customer service, the driver, the creator, it's a lot. And so, but I think there's a lot of pros and cons to it. And so that's my experience to education where I am now.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. A lot of our students sometimes are like, I'm not sure what to major, I'm not sure where I'm going, I'm not sure what I'm going to do after graduation. And it's really great for them to know that you might major in something, but that may not be the angle that you have for your life, right? A lot of things can happen. You can learn different passions, different interests that can come down the road. I think you all mentioned a little bit about kind of like being scared to enter roles you might not be prepared for, or not sure like you're confident in those roles right now. And so can you talk a little bit about kind of what are some ways that you utilize or resources that you utilize in undergrad to be able to pursue those opportunities that you might not think about initially?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, anyone can go ahead and
Yeah. Anyway, okay. Some tools I would really utilize when you're in your undergrad is maybe going to the career center. And also, like, when you're an undergrad, like, networking with your peers, like, to me, I really did not value networking. And because I'm introverted, I feel like I'm socially awkward. I'm like, oh my gosh, I just have to just get my degree. And for me, I just kind of learned the hard way. You have to make connections with people to kind of, if you know someone who's working, somewhere, they can get you in the door. That really helps a lot. So I think really just like joining different clubs, or just getting to know a variety of people. Just being an entrepreneur, I can honestly say just 2 years ago, I really valued networking, because being an entrepreneur, you have to swim, like you have to move every muscle to keep your business going week by week. And so those are some things I would highly recommend: just practicing interviewing, networking, and joining clubs, and getting to know different people.
Thank you so much for sharing.
I mentioned something that I'll touch on. Practicing interviewing, I think, is a very important skill, something that can serve you really well, especially in the digital age, where a lot of jobs have dozens or hundreds of applicants, because they're able to filter through so many people that oftentimes it will come down to how you present. Usually, most of the interviews that I've had in the last few years have been remote, like this on Zoom. So that's really an important skill to learn, is how you communicate across and communicate to someone through a camera, and how you tell your story, how you give your elevator pitch, these kinds of things. And there's a lot of great resources out there about how to learn these kinds of skills. Are fantastic for being able to get your foot in the door and elevate your career. And then the other thing I would just hit on is that it's very common to feel this sense of what we call imposter syndrome when you're starting out young in your career. This idea that you don't belong, and that everyone else feels so comfortable and natural, and you may not be at the same level. But I think almost everyone feels that. It's natural, that anxiety that comes with maybe public speaking, or with walking into a room and not knowing anyone. These are all things that people in the corporate world all struggle with. Some are better at hiding it than others, but everyone is going through that same process. So stay positive. Don't get down on yourself. Be kind to yourself, and know that if you're putting yourself out there, you're doing the right things, and you're on a journey to learn.
I wanted to echo what Jason was saying on your elevator pitch. That is the most important thing that you really need to practice. Just 60 seconds elevator pitch of what it is that you do, what area you cover, what services that you offer. Very important, just because you never know who you're going to run into, especially out when you're networking or you're out volunteering, whatever it is. Or even, I've had situations in where I go to a Dodger game and somebody recognizes me because I'm very, very involved in the community, which is something else I want to touch on. I'm a small business community officer, so I'm part of the small business community engagement in the LA County area. So sometimes I have people that just approach me and they said, hey, you did a panel discussion, or you did a webinar on how to build business credit. That was an amazing webinar, so you start building your brand. So public speaking, definitely very important. Get comfortable with it. I actually went to University of Phoenix, which they made us do presentations every single week. So, not all colleges are like that, or not all universities are like that. But if you can do Toastmasters, I know that I do that, and they count how many ums and so's you're doing so that you can get better at that when you're doing public speaking. That's also something else that I want to recommend. I also want to recommend I'm part of a few executive boards for some nonprofits and some for-profits. And the way that this happens is, as you're building your brand, people want you to be part of their boards because of what you do, your connections, how well connected you are in the community. So that has actually helped me a lot with my business. And when I say my business is what I do here at Bank of America, because technically I run my own business here, even though they pay me a salary, but at the end of the day, I have to deliver numbers of how many sales I did, how much revenue I'm bringing into the company, right? So being part of executive boards, I know, for example, I'm part of EBPA of Southern California. They're a nonprofit. And they focus on employee benefits, networking, and their board actually has business attorneys that can refer business over, insurance brokers. And so you start building your brand, and people want you to be part of those boards, and it'll also help you gain business, especially if you're trying to be an entrepreneur or have your own small business. It actually helps you a lot. And people sometimes don't think about that, but that's actually a network of business owners, or even, other professionals that can actually refer business to you as well.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I know you all mentioned a little bit about networking, right? And so we all know the importance of networking. So can you share an example of how you network to be able to either land a role or an internship in your journey? And Jason, maybe you have an example of that.
Yeah, I think networking earlier in your career can seem daunting because you're just getting started. You don't know that many people. You may know no one in the industry that you want to ultimately end up in. But the way to think about networking is that you're really trying to add value to others and to help other people. That is the objective. And you're basically trusting that by adding value to others, it's going to come back to you tenfold. And so I think, and it can still be tricky to figure out how do you add value to someone who's maybe more established in the industry and older than you and has all this experience, but it can be as simple as connecting with them on LinkedIn and sending them an article, something that you read that you thought was interesting, or if they're posting content about their business, commenting on it, engaging with it. And the other thing to realize is that people want to help others that are early on in their career. No one that's been successful has gotten there on their own. So people enjoy helping others, and they will make time for you, and they will, if you put yourself out there, others will see that, and they'll be supportive of that. So don't be afraid to reach out to people, cold email them. be, polite and ask if they are able to schedule a time and tell you a little bit about what they do, about their industry, about their business, if they have any advice for you. And now you have a connection. And now, a year down the road, if you see a job opening at their company, you can message them back and say, hey, I really appreciated connecting. When we spoke, I saw this role. If you are open to referring me for this role, I would love the support. It's as simple as that. And that's really kind of how we all in the business community begin building out our network.
Thank you. Valerie, Jovana?
Yeah. So as I mentioned before, how I got into this industry, I felt like a fish out of water. Kind of had an imposter syndrome. And so there was someone who was an entrepreneur, was a Black-owned business similar to me. And I followed her for many months, and I saw that her followers were growing and she was getting a lot of business. And so I just randomly, we were part of some similar Facebook groups, but I wasn't really familiar with her. And I randomly just sent her a video and just said, hey, I love your work. Like, you are someone I look up to, X, Y, and Z. The next week she was like, do you want to work for me? Or do you want me, she offered to be my mentor. And ever since then, I've learned so much from her. Not that I really value followers, because that doesn't really convert to customers, but she helped me grow my followers like by 10,000 followers. I work with a lot of high up companies, and even the event I'm working today, she's the one who, she was my sales representative to help me get to this to work this gig that I'm working today. And so I think it's really important, like, if someone inspires you, maybe, I just went out on a limb. I didn't know if she was gonna, respond back. And, she was really flattered. For me, I was just like, I'm thinking she's somewhere, like, I wouldn't say above me, but I felt like she was ahead of me. And so to me, I just want to let her know that I admired that. And so she felt that. And so she wanted to take me in as her mentee. So, if you see an opportunity, someone's doing what you want to do, just reach out.
I wanted to, we talked about recruitment. So I'm really big about LinkedIn. I actually had a professional mentor, and he would tell me, you need to post all your accomplishments and everything that you're doing for your business on LinkedIn. So if you do add me on LinkedIn, you'll see how active I am out in the community. You'll see some accomplishments that I've done. You'll see the people that I'm also around. Sometimes it'll be mayors, councilmen, congressmen, right? And so people start realizing, like, okay, who is this person? Maybe we need to get to know this person. Today, I went to an event, and it was an employee network event within Bank of America. And people said, you're LinkedIn famous. I need a picture with you, and you need to tag me. Which I think is, I find it hilarious. But at the same time, I have been able to build the brand within the bank and within the LA County area for small businesses specifically, right? But one of the things that has happened based on me posting LinkedIn posts in the past is I've been able to get a 35% raise of where I was with my previous employer. So that's just an example of you posting your accomplishments. Don't be humble about it. Go ahead and post it. People will start realizing, people will start following you and saying, what is it that this person is doing different? Or, this is somebody that we want at our company. And till this day, I still get some people trying to recruiting. I do get a lot of messages and things like that. I have to pick and choose which ones I'm going to pay attention to. But what I'm trying to tell you is, if you post this information on LinkedIn, the activities that you're doing, the volunteer events that you're doing, you're going to become that person of, I want that person to come work with my company and come represent my company in that way. So that would be something else that I wanted to recommend. If you're not on LinkedIn, you can add yourself on LinkedIn. If you don't have a business or anything like that, it doesn't matter. Any volunteer events, anything that you're doing out in the community, it's something that you could start being well known in your particular network.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for asking. Yeah, LinkedIn is definitely a great resource to be able to connect with individuals who are currently in the job that you're looking for to get in the future or in the field entirely. So that's a great skills for the students to utilize as well. I want to jump in and ask a few questions our students have put it in the Q&A. And so Dave had asked, what is the best skill or trait that creates a successful entrepreneur that we should learn early on? And so Jovana, Valerie, from your experience of working with individuals who are starting their business, what are some skills or traits that are super essential that they need to start like learning early on?
For me, I would probably say skill. Sorry, I'm like thinking about so many different things, but what comes to my mind is like marketing. Like you can be like the greatest, just learning how to market, and time management is very, I don't know if that's a skill, but having those things can be very helpful. For me, I've invested like some money in some classes to like really learn how to market, because if you don't know, most people won't know about your business. And I think just being an entrepreneur, I think financial literacy too. Just really knowing where your money is going and how it's coming in. And just making sure if you are planning to be an entrepreneur, um, really make sure it's something you're really into, because when it's not going well, based on your passion will help you kind of push through those times. So those are some things I can say.
I also wanted to add, yes, also wanted to go back to what Jovana was saying is financial literacy, financial literacy. This is a word that I use on a daily basis and I can't even say it right now. But maybe because it's 7:30. but no, definitely financial literacy, it's a skill, right? It's not something that you're born with. It's a skill that you have to acquire. So if you could do financial literacy and just learn the basics, and when it comes to your personal banking, it all starts there. Because you've got to remember, right? Who is going to be managing that business? It's going to be you. And if you can't handle your personal finances, how are you going to be able to run a business if your personal finances are not in line? So I would highly recommend, if you can do financial literacy classes, if you're interested in anything like that, please send me a quick note and I'll be happy to connect you to our Better Money Habits area. And we have financial literacy for all levels up until entrepreneurship, and even after you have your business and moving forward. So up to cash flow management and all of that. So I would say financial literacy is huge, because you're going to be handling those finances for your business when you do become a small business owner or a business owner. And then also, I would say take a look and see if you're ready. So take a look and see if you have an employee mindset or an entrepreneur mindset. So employee mindset, meaning that you just go to work and you just want to do what you do and you want nothing else to learn outside of your role. Something that has helped me grow within my company is I've always reached out to different lines of business. So as you know, Bank of America is a full financial firm. So what that means is we have private banking. Those are bankers that handle billionaires, right? They have different needs than somebody that's just starting a small business. We have business bankers. We have business bankers that handle companies like, let's just say, Apple, right? We have somebody here that works at Apple. So Apple, it could be somebody that handles Home Depot. So those are different types of lines of businesses that we have within our bank. We also have bankers that handle nonprofits or that do investment to help you grow your money. So I've always taken the time to be able to see what everybody does so I can see how I can grow. Same thing when it comes to an entrepreneur, right? You need to see whether you have the employee mindset, or if you want more than just being an employee, if you want to learn more and grow. So if you have those that type of mindset of where you're not just there from your 8 to 5, but you're there to be willing to learn and do beyond what your actually day-to-day duties, that'll actually help you to see whether you're ready or not. And I actually do hold those classes as well to get you ready. and seeing whether or not you're ready to whether you do have entrepreneur mindset or an employee mindset. So that's also very important.
Thank you so much. And then adding one more question that students put in the Q&A. This is for you, Jason. Jerry asked, how hard is it to get into sport business from your experience?
Yeah. So there are a lot of entry-level roles in the sports industry. Typically, sports teams will hire a lot of ticketing roles and sales roles. It's competitive, certainly, because it's a desirable industry to work in. But I think that, if you're interested in sports, my advice would be to communicate when you're applying for those roles that you're interested in it for the right reasons. A lot of times I think sports teams will get people applying for jobs just because they're a fan of that team and they might want free tickets or they want to have access and they want to be near the players or whatever. But that's not ultimately what the teams are looking for to drive value for their business. So you want to clearly articulate your value proposition to the sports team. And that may be as simple as you're a really hard worker and you're diligent and you have, strong people skills and you will be you ultimately want to be at, a high executive level role, but you're willing to start out in ticket sales and work your way up. And that's kind of where you see your career going. And that to me would be a much stronger answer than if someone said, oh, I'm just a huge Lakers fan and I would love it if I could, be able to work at crypto.com arena. So it's competitive, but I definitely would encourage anyone that's interested in doing it. It's a fun, rewarding industry, and there's definitely entry-level opportunities for people right out of college.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing. I know definitely our students understanding your reason why, understanding how far that's going to get you, and understand the reasons why you want to pursue a certain career are super important for motivation and for you to be able to find the next level for yourself as well. So thank you so much. One of the last questions that I want to ask, and I think it's really important for our students to know, is what piece of advice would you give someone who is in their undergraduate career right now and is either really, really passionate about the major that they chose or not really sure that's something that they want to continue in the future? And so what piece of advice would you give them?
Some advice I would give you is if you are interested in a role, I would recommend you to do what is it called? When you interview someone, informational interview with someone in the field that you want to pursue. Just to give you an idea, like, is this something you really want to, do you really see yourself in this kind of position? I would also recommend you to learn your strengths. Like I recently did like a strengths test to learn like, what are my strengths? And it kind of tells me why I like this kind of career, because I'm a learner, I love autonomy, so all those different kind of things. So I think that, and I think those are some things that can really help you when you're in your career and if you know what you want. And if you don't know what you want, I guess I'm kind of going to lean into learn your strengths, learn your values. And I think if you guys heard of I think it's 15 personality tests, like to learn what your personality type is. I think those are some good starts to kind of be like your inner compass to kind of guide you where you should go based on the strengths you already have, instead of trying to ask someone like, oh, should I get into nursing or should I go into this field or that field based on someone else's passion or what they think is interesting. It's very important to look within yourself and say, what is the next best step for myself? I know personally for me, I went to school for, college counseling. I really loved my master's degree, but it wasn't serving me at one point in my life and I had to pivot. And it was sad because I'm like, it's always nice to know what you're going to do because you're like, that's nice. You feel secure. But when you don't feel secure in what you're doing, I would highly, highly, highly recommend take like the Gallup strengths test. I think it's like $25 to learn your top 5 strengths. And I think based off of those things can really help you connect the lines like, okay, if I have these strengths, what kind of jobs can I get with these strengths? What's going to work well for me? So that's what I would highly recommend.
Thank you. Jason, Valerie, one last piece of advice in the last couple of minutes that we have left.
Yeah, one thing that I regret not doing more of in my undergraduate career is joining more clubs and organizations. I think that it's a great time in your life to try and take on new activities and join new groups that you may not know if you have any true interest in it, but just to experiment and figure things out and take on leadership roles. So I would say, and I also think that there's a huge advantage to kind of learning that process of meeting a new group of people and getting to know them, taking on a leadership role within that group, and seeing if it has, if the particular subject grabs you, or maybe it doesn't, and that's okay. But ultimately, that process of taking on a leadership role, or even just putting yourself out there and joining new groups, is something that we all go through over and over and over again through our business careers, and it acclimates you to it. It gets you used to putting yourself out there, to being in new environments. I think that's a fantastic skill to learn early on. So I would challenge everyone to join one club or group that you think might be interesting, and then volunteer yourself for a leadership role within that club or group.
Thank you. Valerie, do you want anything else to add to that?
Yeah, Jason actually took mine. I was actually going to say the same thing. I wish that I would have been part of more professional networks. And although I was part of a couple while I was at Cal Poly Pomona, I actually still have those relationships. So I know a lot of the times they reach out to me asking if there is any opportunity here at the bank for maybe one of their loved ones, or it could be a close friend of theirs, or also it could be where I reached out to them because maybe I'm looking for a new opportunity. There was at one point back in 2008 where I started reaching out to everybody, and I said, hey, I think I want to get out of this industry. It's a little scary right now because I kept getting laid off. So I would say definitely professional networks, and always do something, try to always do something out of your comfort zone. So I know for a lot of people, public speaking is something that is very nerve-wracking, right? Something that you're not comfortable with, but that is something that will definitely help you not only on your interview skills, but also while you're out there. If you're an entrepreneur, right? How are you gonna tell people what your service is if that's what you want to do, right? So, having your elevator pitch, making sure that you are always, it doesn't matter if you're talking to the CEO or the president, it doesn't matter. You just talk to everybody as if they're just, if you think about it, these are all normal people. It's just that maybe they just make a little bit more money than us, right? Or maybe they're just a public figure. So that's one thing that in my role, I could be talking to the mayor and I have no idea that he's the mayor. And everybody's like, oh, I saw you talking to the mayor of, I don't know, let's just say, what's the recent one that I saw? I saw the mayor of Calabasas. I had no idea that he was the mayor until I started talking to him. And so you start building those connections. But if you don't get out of your comfort zone, how are you going to know, right? Like as far as networking and all that, it's very, very important. So.
Thank you. I know that really connects well to our theme of tonight, which is really making connections and utilizing your knowledge and the people that you talk to be able to further in your career. So again, we're at the end of time, but thank you so much for everyone joining us today. I'm sure you all learned a lot, and we had a great participation from all of our students. We'd like to thank our sponsors for tonight, Cormark International, for sponsoring our scholarships and our gift cards that were given during each of our sessions. Students will know who won the scholarships and gift cards via email after the event is over. Again, thank you so much for the panelists for being here, and enjoy the rest of your night.